We shall win to save Ghana.
We shall win.
We shall win. We shall win to save Ghana.
To save Ghana.
We shall win.
We shall win
To save Ghana.
to save Ghana.
The elephant is a winning symbol. We shall win.
We shall win
To save Ghana. Rado, rado, rado. Okay. Rado, rado, rado.
One more. Arise,
Ghana, you for your country. The nation demands your devotion. Let us all unite to uphold and make it great and strong. We are all involved. We are all involved. We are all involved in building a mother's land. We are all involved. We are all involved. We are all involved in building a mother's land.
Thank you very much and God bless you.
That's all right. Yeah, whichever one. Colleagues in leadership, ranking members of the mighty Minority Caucus, deputy ranking members, colleague members of the mighty Minority of 87. Our friends from the media, good morning to all of you. And let me, on behalf of the leadership of the caucus, wish you, though belated, a happy new year. And to the media, let me also thank you on behalf of the caucus for all you've done for democracy and for our caucus. We started in 2025, January 7th, with a lot of uncertainty. We must admit that through you, the media, bloggers, traditional media, all of you, you've given the minority a voice. And this we don't take for granted. God bless you. Ladies and gentlemen, the moral test of Parliament is not the size of its majority, but the constitutional courage of its minority. In Ghana's 9 parliaments, where the NDC commands a historically large majority and the MPP holds just 87 seats, the MPP minority has often functioned as the Republic's circuit breaker, insisting that constitutional procedure, oversight, and public accountability prevail over brute numbers. My dear editors members of the press, we want to say this plainly. Article 162 of the 1992 Constitution does not simply acknowledge your work. It protects your freedom as essential to our democracy. It guarantees that press is free to question power at all times. And democracy forbids censorship or interference that would weaken your duty to inform, scrutinize, and challenge. Without that freedom, used with courage and integrity, every other institutional promise is reduced to words on paper. You are the guardians of the space between our national ideals and their fulfillment. Through your vigilance, you decide whether our democracy remains a living, accountable system or decays into mere performance, impressive in ceremony, but empty behind the curtain of power. Our Anlo elders give us a warning in a proverb. Kokuvi says, he has covered his eyes with his hands and is using his jaw to see. It describes a deliberate silence, a choice to ignore what one clearly sees in order to avoid the consequence that truth might bring. It is that habit of seeing but pretending not to see, of knowing but refusing to speak. This is how constitutional democracies often begin to die. They rarely fall with tanks in the streets or gunfire in the night. Instead, they erode through the slow corrosion of conscience, the gradual acceptance of the gap between what the Republic promises and how it actually behaves. We sense the decay, yet, if there is silence, it will be allowed to spread. I am proud to say that you, the media, remain firm in opening up issues. But like we always say, there's more room for improvement. This gathering is not a party rally. It is a constitutional conversation for the public record. We speak today with an eye to the historians of tomorrow, who will ask whether we found the courage to speak when it mattered, or whether we watched in silence as the distance between our ideals and our nation actions grew too wide to close. I think I need to. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been told that the economy is doing well. That is not in doubt. But the question is the economy doing well because there is prudent management of our economy, or that whether this government has introduced some social intervention programs that have in itself created an opportunity for young, ambitious Ghanaians? We hereby submit that the so-called gains were not born out of government's competence in the management of our economy. Rather, the IMF program, debt relief, rising commodity exports, reduced expenditure are the major reasons for the upswing in Ghana's economy, not a re-engineering of the economy. Therefore, my respected friend and colleague, Dr. Forson, must know that these facts expose the government's hypocrisy in telling us that they have prudently managed the economy. The much-touted fiscal consolidation has been attained on the back of a sharply cut expenditures for critical sectors, resulting in lower borrowing needs, and currency appreciation solely due to the weakening of the US dollar, which has led to preference for massive global investment in gold. Also, the debt restructure, which we started under MPP while in government, in addition to the commodity export boom in gold and cocoa output, led to the big trade surplus which was recently announced. So since May 2023, Ghana has had a 3 billion from Ghana's IMF program, which in turn has unlocked light debt relief and financing. For example, in mid-2025, Ghana's parliament approved a 2.8 billion restructuring deal with 25 official creditors, including China, France, the US, UK, and others. Under this agreement, all debt payments due through 2026 were rescheduled, effectively granting Ghana 2.8 billion in debt service relief it could play with in the budget. So once again, Ghana's economic fortune so far is tied to the IMF program and the windfall, not necessarily due to any re-engineering of the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, let me straight away zoom in to raise an issue of NDC's hypocrisy and double standards. In the 8 parliaments, when they were in opposition, they told the whole world that there was a need to pass an anti-LGBT law. Basically, they said that to protect our own culture, our religious beliefs, there's a need to pass a law that will criminalize any acts of lesbianism, gayism, etc. They were loud on the streets of Accra. They went into our villages, engaged the media, engaged religious leaders, engaged traditional rulers. 1 year down the line, they've been in office. They have gone quiet on this anti-LGBT law. We hear His Excellency the President play on words, claiming that the government was doing wider consultation to see how the law could be formulated in a better way. Really? But was it not the same law that they said it was okay to be passed? And again, when the mighty minority members decided through private members' bill to now pin them to their own principles, suddenly, after all the processes have been followed, an approval given, and the motion was on the order paper, the NDC, through its majority leader, found a way of using procedure to claim that there was no such approval by the speaker and tried to scapegoat the clerk to parliament. As we speak, they have refused, neglected, and deliberately denied the people of Ghana that anti-LGBT law that they themselves spoke about. To make matters worse, our own curriculum, they have found space to introduce this promotion of sexual rights in the curriculum of our children. When they were exposed, this is what they had to say, that it was a mistake and that an anomaly. What an anomaly? When government documents have been printed, circulated, and signed by no less a person than the sector minister, and through the vigilance of the minority, you get exposed, you now say it was an anomaly. We don't accept this. We hold a view that the NDC used the anti-LGBT law only for power. And now that they are facing the reality they want to find a way of running away from it. We will insist that they act by their own principle. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also address the issue of gold for reserves. We are not in any way opposed to that policy because the policy was started by us. We, the minority, are again not opposed to the institutionalization of a new vehicle to see to the implementation of that all-important policy. However, we have two major concerns. Concern number one, the establishment of the Gold Board as a regulator and also an operator is in a way directly encouraging galamsey activities. Our water bodies are being polluted. In fact, organized labor last year sounded the alarm and indicated that the galamsey activities have worsened. This government has failed to provide tangible evidence of its commitment in the fight against galamsey. It is clear that they are always involved in a PR gimmick, looking at the optics rather than the substance. They are interested in short-term gains. And today, we don't know whether the Gold Board makes a distinction between regularly mined gold or an illicit gold. All we know is that they are talking about their success story, the amount of gold or the tons of gold they have purchased. Yet they fail to tell us whether or not there are measures to fight against illicit gold that are mined through galamsey activities. We are concerned because the future of this country is at stake. And the earlier this government took steps to protect the future of Ghana, the better. Second, we are also concerned about the IMF reported $240 million as of September 2025. There seemed to be some confusion between the Gold Board and the central bank. But we want to tell the central bank, participating in the activities, being part of the feast, and when there are issues, you run away and you want to put the blame squarely at the feet of Gold Board will not wash. The IMF says that the losses came by as a result of Bank of Ghana failing to protect our funds. How can you give money to Gold Board to buy gold and they make losses because of exchange rate differences? How can you be paying fees that by law you are not entitled to pay? How can there ever be a justification that in rolling out a policy there is an economic cost? Let me remind the central bank that His Lordship, Justice Afre of blessed memory, in the Salome case, laid down the ground rules, especially the true definition of causing financial loss. The central bank must not forget this. What is happening amount to a financial loss to the state. We are also aware that respected and senior legal experts within government seem to have warned on this. It is filtered through to us. Therefore, we urge the central bank to immediately take steps to address this. Though we've become aware that there was a joint board meeting between central bank and the Gold Board as a result of the concerns raised by the minority, of which there was a conclusion that artisanal mining model should now go for 9.75 for bullion and 9.55 for unprocessed gold, which is a reduction from the previous 15%. Much as this is commendable, we still think that there are still losses that would have to be considered. We are also aware that central bank is saying that it wants to give some moratorium of 1 month to allow for further deliberations amongst the various parties, the Ministry of Finance, Gold Board, and government, on a sustainable cost-sharing structure for the program. So indeed, if the minority was merely blowing hot air, why have they now decided through joint board meeting to take steps to ensure a sustainable cost structure? We are concerned about these losses. We believe that if indeed we are going to have a goal for oil reserves, the government must take steps to sustain it by ensuring that there's real profits. The approach they have adopted will not help the country. We need money to build roads, to construct hospitals, to build schools, to create jobs. And if the central bank is going to underwrite some of these artificial losses and turn around to tell us that it's an economic cost, we regret to say that the minority will not accept this. We are open to discussions on this matter, and just as we always do, we'll put forward our views. We also want to say that we filed a motion in Parliament. We have become aware that the Speaker has admitted the motion, which would allow for broader engagement and consultation on this matter. We urge the various stakeholders in this goal for oil reserve to open up to hear our views so that together we can move this country forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I will proceed to state that at a recent World Economic Forum in Davos, the Canadian Prime Minister delivered a message to the global elite that they did not want to hear. He warned that the old order is not coming back. He described a new world in which major powers